Chapter School or Lesson of the Gods, Part 1.
After my last visit to the dolmen on Bambakov's land and my conversation with his son, my discussion with Anastasia about homeland and her project for a plot of land kept coming to mind more and more vividly. The separate parcels of future beautiful settlements that Anastasia drew in the dirt with the stick surfaced in my memory, the enthusiasm of her voice, filled with unusual intonations when she talked about them. It was as if I could hear the rustling of the leaves in the gardens that had covered the wastelands and the pure water gurgling in the streams, could see the handsome and happy men and women living in their midst, and hear the children's laughter and the songs at the close of day. Meanwhile, many questions arose because it was so unusual. Anastasia, why do you draw it as if the parcels of land did not touch each other?
That is as it should be, so that there are lanes, paths and roads in the beautiful settlement. On every side, from each parcel to the next, there should be a distance of at least 3 meters.
Will the settlement have a school?
Naturally. Look, here's the school, in the middle of all the little squares.
It would be interesting to see what kind of teachers the new school will have and how the lessons will be set up. Probably the same way as I saw at the Shchetinin school. Now lots of people go there. Everyone likes the forest school, which is in Tekos. Many people want to create a school just like it near them.
The Shchetinin school is beautiful. It is a step toward the school in which children will study in the new settlements. Shchetinin graduates will help build them and will teach in them. But the main thing is not just educated and wise pedagogues. The parents will teach their children in those new schools, and will themselves learn from their children.
But how can parents all suddenly become teachers? Do all parents really have a higher education, and a specialized one at that? The different subjects, mathematics, physics, chemistry, literature, who is going to explain to the children in the school?
Not everyone will have an identical education, of course, but knowing subjects and sciences does not have to be an end in itself after all. How to be happy is the main thing to learn, and that only parents can show by their own example. It is not at all mandatory that parents conduct a school lesson in the traditional sense. For example, parents can participate in a joint discussion, or can give an exam collectively.
An exam? Who can parents give an exam to?
Their own children, and the children can test them, their own parents.
Parents give their children an exam? That's just ridiculous. Then all the children will get top marks. What parent would give his own child a bad mark? Of course, any parent would give his son or daughter a top mark.
Vladimir, do not be hasty in your conclusions. Among the lessons similar to present-day school lessons, there will be others, the main ones, the lessons of the new school.
Others? What kind? Suddenly the solution came to me. If Anastasia could show me pictures from 1,000 years ago so easily, it didn't matter how she did it, using her ray, hypnosis or something else. It worked, that meant. That meant she could show the near future too. So I asked, Anastasia, can you show me just one lesson in that future school that the new settlements will have? Can you show me a non-traditional lesson? Then show me. I want to compare them with what I saw at the Shchetinin school and with those I myself had in school.
You won't ask questions about or be frightened by the power I use to create a picture of the future.
I don't care how you do it. I'm very curious to see.
Then lie down on the grass, relax and go to sleep.
Anastasia quietly placed her palm on mine and I saw, as if looking down, among many parcels of land, one that was different from all the others in its inner layout. In it, there were several large wooden buildings connected by paths lined with different flower beds. Next to the set of structures was a natural amphitheatre, a knoll where rows of benches descended from top to bottom in a semicircle, and where about 300 people of different ages were sitting. Among them were older people with grey in their hair and people who were quite young. They seemed to be sitting in families, since grown men, women and children of different ages sat higgledy-piggledy. Everyone was talking to everyone else excitedly, as if they were about to see something unusual, a superstar concert, or a presidential speech. On a wooden stage up front were 2 little tables, 2 chairs, and a large blackboard in back. Next to the platform was a group of children, 15 or so, ranging in age from 5 to 12, and engaged in lively debate about something.
There is something like a symposium on astronomy about to begin.
I heard Anastasia's voice. Why are the children here? Didn't their parents have anyone to leave them with?
One of them from the group of debating children is just about to give the main report. They're still choosing who this will be. See, there are 2 candidates, a boy, 9 years old, and a girl of 8. Now the children are voting. The majority choose the boy.
A businesslike little boy approached the table with a confident step. He took some papers with plans and drawings out of a manila folder and laid them on the table. All the children either gradually walked or skipped along to join their parents sitting on the benches. The red-haired, freckle-faced little girl, the other candidate for the speech, walked past the table with a proudly raised head. She was holding a bigger and thicker folder than the boy. There were probably drawings and plans in that folder too. The boy by the table tried to say something to the girl candidate walking by, but the child didn't stop. She straightened her red braid and walked past, turning away demonstratively. For a while the boy watched, distraught, as the proud red-haired child moved away. Then he again began to set out his pages with great concentration. Who taught these children astronomy so well that they can give a report to adults?
No one taught them. It was suggested to them that they themselves figure out how it is all arranged, and then prepare and present their conclusions. They have been preparing for more than 2 weeks, and now the important moment has come. Their conclusions can be opposed by anyone who wants to, and they will defend their opinion.
So this is like a game?
You could call what is going on a game, but it is a very serious game. Each person present will engage and accelerate his thought about the planetary arrangement, and perhaps will begin to think about something bigger. After all, the children have been thinking for 2 weeks, contemplating, and their thinking is not limited by any dogmas. They do not have any preset interpretations of the planetary arrangement hanging over them. We still do not know what they will come up with.
Do you mean to say they will dream up something with their childish intellect?
I mean to say they will present their theory. The adults do not have axioms of the planetary arrangement either, after all. The goal of this symposium is not to work out any canons, but to accelerate thought, which subsequently will determine the truth or come close to it.
A young man walked up to the second little table and announced the beginning of the report. The boy began to speak. He spoke confidently and enthusiastically for 25 or 30 minutes. His speech seemed to me total childish fantasy. A fantasy not based on any scientific theories or even the elementary knowledge of a high school astronomy course. The boy said approximately the following.
If you look at the sky at night, there are a whole lot of stars shining there. There are different kinds of stars. There are very little stars and bigger ones, but the very little stars can be big too. We only think they're little at first, but they are very big, because when an airplane flies high up, it's little. But when we go up to it on the ground, it looks big, and lots of people could fit inside it. Each star could fit a lot of people. Only there aren't any people on stars right now. But they shine at night. The big ones shine, and so do the little ones. They shine so that we will look at them and think about them. The stars want us to do everything as well on them as on Earth. They envy the Earth a little. They want the same kinds of berries and trees to grow on them as we have, and to have the same kind of streams and little fish. The stars are waiting for us, and each is trying to shine so that we notice it. But we still can't fly to them because we have a lot to do at home. But when we finished up everything at home and everywhere, and things are fine all over the Earth, we'll fly to the stars. Only we won't fly on a plane or rocket, because it takes a long time to fly on a plane, and it's long and boring on a rocket. Also, not everyone will fit on a plane or rocket, and rockets won't hold all kinds of freight. and trees won't fit, or a stream. When we've made everything all over the earth good, we, the whole earth, will fly to the first star. A few other stars will want to fly to earth themselves and press up to it. They've already sent us little bits, and then little bits have pressed up to the earth. At first, people thought these were comets, but these are bits of stars that wanted very much to press up to the beautiful earth. They were sent by the stars that are waiting for us. We can fly up to a distant star as the whole earth, and whoever wants to can stay on the star, so that it would be handsome there, like on earth.
The boy lifted his pages and showed them to his listeners. On the pages were drawings of the starry sky and trajectories of the earth's movement toward the stars. In the last drawing, 2 stars bloomed in gardens, and earth moved away from them in its intergalactic flight. When the boy finished speaking and showing his drawings, the moderator announced that whoever wanted to could speak as an opponent or express his own ideas regarding what he had heard. But no one was in any hurry to speak. Everyone was silent, and it seemed to me agitated for some reason. Why are they so agitated? Do none of the adults know astronomy?
They're agitated because you need to bring good arguments and speak coherently. After all, their children are present. If a speech is incomprehensible or unacceptable to a child's soul, mistrust will arise toward the speaker, or even worse, dislike. The adults treasure the regard for them and are agitated and don't want to take a risk. They're afraid of looking mean in front of those gathered, and most of all in front of their own children.
The heads of many of those present began turning in the direction of an elderly greying man sitting in the middle of the hall. He had his arms around the shoulders of the little red-headed girl, the one who was one of the candidates for the report. Next to them sat a young and very pretty woman.
Many are now looking at the greying man in the middle of the hall. He is a university professor, a scientist. He is retired now. At first, his private life didn't work out, and he had no children. 10 years ago, he took a parcel of land and began setting it up himself. A young woman came to love him, and they had this little red-haired girl. The young woman next to him is his wife and the mother of his daughter. The former professor loves his late child very much, and the red-haired girl, his daughter, regards him with great respect and love. Many of those present believe that the professor should speak first.
But the greying professor was slow to speak. It was obvious he was drumming a magazine out of agitation. Finally, the professor rose and began to say something about the structure of the universe, comets, and the Earth's mass.
The planet Earth, of course, does move in space and rotates, but it is indissolubly linked with the solar system and cannot move toward distant galaxies independently without its solar system. The sun gives life to every living thing on Earth. Moving away from the sun would mean a significant cooling on Earth and, as a consequence, the planet's death. We can all observe what happens even when we move a relatively short wave from the sun. Winter happens.
The professor suddenly fell silent. The boy's speaker was going through his drawings, distraught, then looking inquiringly at his classmates with whom he had prepared his speech. But evidently the argument about winter and cooling was very weighty and understandable to everyone. This argument destroyed the pretty, childish dream of common flight. Suddenly, in the silence that followed, which had already lasted half a minute, the greying professor's voice was heard again.
Winter. Life always dies down if the Earth does not have enough solar energy. Always. No scientific theoretical investigations are needed to see this, to be convinced. However, it may be that the Earth itself has the same kind of energy as the Sun, but it just hasn't shown itself. No one has discovered it yet. Maybe you will one day. Maybe the Earth can be self-sufficient. This energy will manifest itself in something. The Sun's energy will manifest on Earth, and like solar energy, it will unfold the flower's petals. And then we can travel on Earth through the galaxy. But then...
The professor broke off and fell silent. A murmur of dissatisfaction arose in the hall, and it began. Adults rose from their seats to refute the professor when it came to the possibility of living without the sun. They said something about plant photosynthesis, about the temperature of the environment, about the trajectories of the movement of the planets, which no one planet can exit. The professor sat, dropping his greying head lower and lower. His red-headed daughter turned her head to face each speaker, and sometimes rose slightly, as if she wanted to defend her father from her opponents with her body. An elderly woman who looked like a teacher took the floor and began talking about how bad it is to indulge and flatter children for the sake of their self-esteem.
Any lie will be exposed in time, and then how are we all going to look? This is not simply a lie, it is cowardice.
The red-haired girl latched onto the lapels of her father's jacket. She began shaking him, nearly crying, repeating in a breaking voice,
Papchoka, you lied about energy. Did you lie, Paparchka, because we're children? The lady said you were being cowardly. Is being cowardly a bad thing?
Silence fell in the open air hall. The professor lifted his head, looked into his daughter's eyes, put his hand on her little shoulder, and said softly,
I believed what I said, my daughter.
The red-haired child fell silent again, and she quickly climbed up on the seat, and her high child's voice shouted to the hall.
My papa is not cowardly. My father believed it. He believed it.
The little girl sent her gaze around the now quiet hall. No one looked in their direction. She turned toward her mother, but the young woman had turned away and lowered her head, buttoning and unbuttoning the buttons on her jacket sleeve. The little girl again sent her gaze around the silent hall and turned to her father. The professor continued as before to look helplessly at his little daughter. The red-haired girl's voice was heard again in the absolute silence, but now it was kind and not loud.
The people don't believe you, Papochka. They don't believe it because an energy still hasn't appeared on Earth that could open the flower's petals like the nice sun. But when it does appear, all the people will believe you. When it appears, they will believe you.
She straightened her bangs with a quick movement, jumped into the aisle, and ran off. When she reached the edge of the open-air hall, she headed for one of the nearby houses, ran in the door, and a couple of seconds later appeared in the doorway again. She was holding a pot with some kind of plant in it. She ran with it to the now empty table for the speaker. She put the potted plant on the table, and her child's voice, loud and confident, was heard over the heads of those present.
Here is a flower. It has closed its petals. The petals of all the flowers have closed because there is no sun. But they will open soon because there is energy on the earth. I am going to turn into energy that will open the flower's petals.
The red-haired girl squeezed her little fingers into fist and began looking at the flower without blinking. The people sitting in their seats did not talk. Everyone was watching the little girl and the potted plant on the table in front of her. The professor slowly rose from his seat and walked towards his daughter. He walked up to her and took her by the shoulders, trying to lead her away. But the redhead jerked her shoulders and whispered,
Why don't you help me, Papochka?
The professor must have been completely distraught. He remained standing next to his daughter, his hands on her childish shoulders, and he began looking at the flower too. Nothing was happening to the flower. I felt sorry for the red-haired girl and the greying professor. Why did he have to go babbling on with his statements about his belief in an undiscovered energy? All of a sudden, the boy who had given the report stood up in the first row. He turned halfway to the hall, sitting silently, sniffed, and walked toward the table. He approached the table with dignity and confidence, and stood next to the red-haired girl. He, too, directed his stare at the plant in the clay pot. But, of course, as before, nothing was happening to the plant. And then I saw it. I saw children of different ages start standing up from their seats in the hall. One after another, the children walked toward the table. They stood side by side in silence and looked closely at the flower. Last was a girl of about 6 bringing along her very little brother, holding him with her two little hands. They squeezed in front of those standing there, with difficulty, and with someone's help she stood her little brother on the chair in front of the table. The little guy, gazing around at those standing there, turned toward the flower and started blowing on it. All of a sudden, the petals of one of the flowers on the plant in the pot began slowly opening. Very slowly. But the quieted people in the hall noticed it. Some of them rose silently from their seats. A second flower on the table opened its petals, and along with it a third and a fourth. The elderly woman, who looked like a teacher, exclaimed in an ecstatic child's voice, and she began to clap. The hall broke out in applause. The handsome young woman, who was the professor's wife, ran from the hall toward the professor, who had stepped aside from the exultant children by the flower and was wiping his temple. She flung her arms around his neck and began kissing his cheeks and lips. The red-haired girl took a step toward her kissing parents, but the little boy reporter held her back. She jerked her arm away, but after taking a few steps, she turned around, went right up to him, rebuttoned the unbuttoned button on his shirt, smiled, and turned quickly, ran to her hugging parents. More and more people from the hall came up to the table. Some picked up their children. Some shook the young speaker's hand. He stood there, holding out his hand for shaking, and with his second hand pressed the button just buttoned by the red-haired girl. Someone started playing something halfway between a Russian and gypsy song on the bayan. An old man started tapping his foot on the stage, and a stoutish woman walked out to him like a plump swan. Two young fellows began a rollicking squatting dance, and the flower with its open petals turned toward the rollicking Russian dance, which was drawing more and more people with its daring. The picture of the unusual school quickly vanished, as if the screen had gone black. I was sitting on the grass. Around me was the taiga vegetation, and Anastasia was by my side. But inside me was an agitation. I heard the laughter of the happy people and the sounds of the merry dance's music, and I didn't want to say goodbye to all that. When what I heard inside me gradually fell still, I said to Anastasia, "What you just showed me doesn't look anything like a school lesson. This is a gathering of families living as neighbors. There wasn't a single teacher. It all happened on its own accord."
There was a teacher, Vladimir. The wisest one was there. That teacher did not distract anyone.
But why were the parents present? Their emotions caused anxiety.
Emotions and feelings accelerate thought multifold. These kinds of lessons take place every week in the school. Teachers and parents are united in their aspirations, and they consider the children equal among them.
But it still seems fairly unusual to have parents' participation in teaching children. After all, parents have not studied to be teachers.
Vladimir, it is a sad fact that is now considered normal for people to hand their children over to others for education. Who to doesn't matter, a school or some other institution. They hand over their children, often without even knowing what kind of worldview is being taught, what is being instilled in them, what destiny is being prepared for them. Whoever gives his own children up to the unknown deprives himself of his own children. This is why those children whose mothers give them up to someone else for teaching forget their mothers.
Join us for the next segment of Co-Creation, Book 4 of the Ringing Cedars series, School or Lesson of the Gods, Part 2.